Hey YouTube, and welcome back to Love for Crypto. Just want to say a massive thank you to everybody in the community for the recent donations and support that has been shown to the channel in regards to setting up the studio. We're pretty much there now. We've got all the backlights, the desk, everything's in there ready for us to really come out and start producing that content that we always dreamed that we would do from the start. I'm out of work for the next sort of 3 to 4 months anyway. So due to this reason, I'm going to be doing a lot more content, more in-depth content than I would usually produce. Obviously, due to the fact that I've got the time on my hands now, and I don't just have to record the motorways that you're all used to seeing. So there's a couple of things that we do need to talk about, really, that has been going on. More towards the actual traditional markets as well, not necessarily the cryptocurrency markets. But as you're all aware, the Dow Jones is really taking a beating at the moment. It is bleeding out badly, as well as the Nasdaq, S&P 500, and also other markets across the world. The Asian markets are suffering, as well as the British markets. We are really, looks like really running into that bear market now that we did speak about a couple of months ago. I mean, if you all remember quite rightly, I believe CNBC was parading the fact that Apple and Amazon was both over $1 trillion companies at the time. I did make a video actually in response to that, claiming it was absolute utter bullshit, and you would more than likely, if not potentially sooner rather than later, see a rapid decline in the US markets in regards to the tech sector in Nasdaq. And it's exactly what we have seen. It's what we predicted. It's just easy to say, really. It's not that, you know, we've got any incredible insights or any more information than obviously the other person. It's just sheerly down to the fact, you know, the information that we have gathered along this journey in cryptocurrencies. It's actually quite magnificent, actually. I never thought I'd be sat here behind a microphone in an office studio, talking into a microphone, obviously, which is going to be uploaded to you guys, but you know, I've learned a lot about economics, the monetary system, how money's created, how it's circulated, how it's destroyed, and all sorts of different stuff in regards to geopolitical tensions around the world, which is obviously affecting the markets as well. Obviously, you've got the trade wars, you've got the emerging market currency crisis, contagion, which is still, you know, it's not rapidly spiraling out of control. A lot of damage has been done across all sectors recently, not just obviously your traditional markets as well. We've seen obviously the yield curve inversion, which is looking quite scary. You'll probably see on CNBC, they'll be saying it's nothing to worry about, but this has been a great indication previously, historically, that an upcoming recession is pretty much around the corner, and we are seeing that. On Wednesday, we've seen the federal base funds rate, which was increased by another 0.25. Which is 25 basis points. Again, Federal Reserve continuing with the QT that we spoke about. They are tightening. The markets are already drying up with liquidity, and Donald Trump himself has warned the Fed, saying it would be the wrong move to increase rates in a market that is already as liquid as it is. But obviously the Fed, they're not taking no political views into this. They're continuing with the QT that they set out to do, and it looks like they are sticking to that road path. Which for us crypto holders is, I mean, to be honest, it's quite fascinating what is happening. You know, obviously when we first got into this, it was just Ripple, you know, a tech company that have created a new way of moving money from A to B. You know, I first saw the video from Ripple, and it sold me at that point. And you know, when they started hearing of MoneyGram announcements and your Western Union, started getting a little bit excited. But obviously, as the years gone on, and as we've actually dived deeper down the rabbit hole, obviously, if you've seen our previous videos, you know exactly what we're talking about and how in depth Ripple are with the major forces of the world. Is probably saying, you know, we're talking the IMF, the World Bank, the Federal Reserve, the Bank of England, Bank of Canada. We're talking about major central banks around the world that know that there is a problem. If we go back to the point that you know, back in 08-09, during that financial crisis, central banks had to obviously drop interest rates to zero in order to pump more capital back into the markets, as it was bleeding that badly. If you imagine you've got a lot of sellers all trying to go through the same door, it comes to a point where the price will just have absolutely severe flash crashes, and you know, central banks had to intervene in 2008, 2009. They had to intervene. They had to drop interest rates down to zero so they could obviously issue more money and inject capital back into those markets. Now, a lot of people will argue, was this the right move? Should central banks have dropped it? Should we have just faced the crisis in a way and you know, basically paid the piper at that point? You know, we was in an economic financial crisis. You know, a lot of major banks was bailed out. You know, the too big to fail banks, if you want to call them, was bailed out by central banks. And, you know, a lot of people will argue it should have ended there and then. But as you can see, you know, central banks did decrease, and they've been artificially suppressed rates for too long. And what's basically happened is, obviously, if you get in, you know, borrowed money at 0% interest rates, it's basically, let's just borrow the money and pay them back whenever the fuck we're paying back. And that's what's happened. And this money's just come out and it's worked its way into the stock markets. And it's basically completely artificially risen the price of the stock market. So, you know, don't be surprised when you see a 50% decline in the stock markets themselves, thinking, oh, what's going on? Because the central banks actually do start depleting their balance sheets. You know, remember, it's the central banks that have been buying these stocks, you know, stock buybacks and all this stuff. It's unbelievable. We are really at an unbelievable fucking point in life, ladies and gentlemen. There is no other two ways about it, really, realistically. And as you can say, you know, we spoke about this, 4, 5, potentially 6, 7 months ago. Around that time, we was talking about the economic financial crisis. And we got ridiculed for it. We physically got ridiculed as a channel. It was like, what, you want about the stock markets are doing the best? You know, the US economy is the greatest that it's ever been. And again, it's just a shame that people are suckered in too easily by the mainstream media, and they just can't see past it. You know, they'll look on YouTube, they'll think, who the fuck is this guy talking shit into a microphone? Why would I listen to him? And we don't ask people to listen to us. All we're trying to do is issue information that can educate, and basically just, you know, just open your eyes to exactly the realism and the factualities of life that are happening around us. You know, we talk about deep state and the NSA and CIA. People laugh it off as conspiracy theory. People can laugh whatever the fuck they want off. You know, it's each to their own. And, you know, when you're listening to credible people, especially from people from the CIA, etc., who are coming out and they blew the whistle and, you know, they basically told you that's what they're trying to do, and it's always been the same goal. It's for a new world order supplemented by a one world currency. And I'm not trying to say XRP is going to come out there and be that currency. A lot of people do misinterpret when I exactly do say that. A good way of illustrating it for you, if you think about at the moment, the United States dollar is the reserve currency of the world. You know, maybe 64, 65% of global trade is denominated in United States dollars. So obviously that makes the United States dollar the world reserve currency. But if you think about what's happening, if you think about the Federal Reserve tweets that we sent you in regards to talking about the Triffin's dilemma, and this is exactly what this is. This is what it's all about at the moment. It is the Triffin's dilemma, and it's created when a nation's currency acts as the world reserve currency. Because the world demand US dollars for trade, it entitles the United States to print endless amounts of notes and bills and issue them to people around the world, no questions asked, because they act as the world reserve currency. So as you can imagine, United are a debt issuing country. So with services in regards to imports, you know, their exports, usually it's an import-export trade, but due to the fact that United dollars can just print their US dollars, obviously that supplements the fact that, you know, if they get an export coming into the United States for trade, obviously they can just issue that note. It works at one point for the United States, probably in their favour, but now it's probably going the opposite way. We've got one-way trade deficits that are just piling up, and obviously we've got the calls for de-dollarization around the world. You know, it's being heard everywhere around the world now, whether it's China, India, Russia, Europe. Everybody's trying to create new payment systems that can divert away from the United States dollar, and it's not an act of war. It's an act of the fact that, you know, emerging market currencies are being dragged down by the dollar. The strength of the dollar is depleting their purchasing power whilst being pegged, and this is what happens in a peg-based currency system. So obviously, if you can imagine what Ripple are trying to achieve with XRP, they're trying to actually use XRP as a bridge currency. And eventually going down the line, you know, I don't know how long it will take. We're definitely on the right tracks. We're getting all the indication to support the theories that we have been issuing. I just coming thick and fast in the news, and every single time that something comes out, I'm actually in shock and disbelief that the calls that we was making was actually standby correct. But as you can imagine, you know, moving forwards, let's just go 5 years into the future. We've got all the top world, you know, banks, central banks, you know, all on blockchain DLT, because that's the way that they're moving forward. They've all come out and already said it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's Ripple's technology, but the DLT, the blockchain principles, if blockchain can be applied to something in the world, it will be. It's just a safer, more secure, more transparent system. But obviously, if we can, you know, just imagine all the banks and everyone's using XRP as that, you know, bridge asset, then automatically it sort of does become, you know, sort of the one world currency, if you want to call it that. You know, central banks will create their own CBDs. The IMF may potentially create their own SDR basket. You know, it will probably be interoperable with XRP. You know, it will keep its own denominated value as the SDR. But when it comes to actually transferring the value, then of course XRP is going to play a role in there. And it's not just XRP being the only settlement currency that's compatible on the Interledger protocol, but you have to remember, you know, the likes of Stellar, you know, there will be other coins that will be successful in this race, if you want to call it that. But I mean, all you have to think about, a good analogy to look at, everybody seems to be adopting the Interledger protocol as the standard, and obviously XRP happens to be the standard settlement procedure for the Interledger protocol. And as we're saying, it's just like anybody can create their own search engine and throw it onto the internet, but people are going to use it when they've got Google. And I think it's probably the same way of looking at XRP. I think it's going to easily obtain the lion's share of settlement via the Interledger protocol. I don't want to come on here and say it'll settle every single transaction and payment on the Interledger protocol, because potentially and realistically it won't. But you know, we're talking a major share of the Interledger protocol settlement actually running through XRP to actually bridge the value from one payment platform to another payment platform. So as you can see, the proceedings, and it's just unbelievable, really. And obviously, you know, in regards to regulations, it seems like we are getting a little bit closer regulatory wise in the US. There's been a couple of bills, obviously, that have been passed or put through into Congress, which would be nice to see. I mean, realistic, come on, ladies and gentlemen, it take a few to think that this isn't going to be successful at this point. Ryan's going in September in Capitol Hill basically stood up, preached to Congress, saying you need to act now before the competition steals the custom base and takes that overseas. You know, Ryan's going basically said during the .com era, the reason that America did so well is because of the regulatory stance that they did issue, allowing it to grow, which we've not seen at the moment. But, you know, what we said on this channel, and it just is exactly the case. It's manipulation. It's been used, honestly, it's been used as a way to drive retail out the market so institutions can accumulate. A lot of people will probably say that I'm in denial or talking shit, basically, when I do say this, but you know, listen, the evidence is out there, substantial evidence. You know, we've seen central banks, we've seen banks themselves, JP Morgan and Fidelity, we've seen all sorts of major institutional interest in the area, and you know, we are being fobbed off with, oh, is it a secure? It's been the biggest weapon used, you know, if you want to call it Wall Street. They're all interconnected with the SEC. A little brown envelope slid under the door can make stuff like that happen, and if you don't think it can, then you're an idiot. It's probably the best way of putting it. So I'd like to see something come out from the US side. You know, it could be in the next couple of months, it could be in the next couple of weeks, who knows? But we've seen the progress. We've seen the progress with the G20. Obviously, they're looking at taxing cryptocurrencies. Exactly the same with the US. You know, the UK pretty much just issued their sort of capital gains tax. So it seems like the ball is actually rolling now in regards to regulatory clarity, which we need. We're not going to prosper without it. You know, we can't build outside the system. We need to work from within, with the legislation, with the regulatory bodies, you know, with central banks and banks themselves. And you know, it's going to be a collaborative effort to make the internet of value work. It's just not going to be a one black horse winner that's basically going to take everything. So yeah, I obviously thanks. I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody who has donated to our GoFundMe page. Obviously, I'm sat here in the studio now. It's pretty much getting there. We've just got to finish off the actual computer itself. So we've got obviously a high power computer, so we can actually start doing them Q&As on live. Because it'd be great to interact with the audience. You know, throwing questions out, etc. It's a little bit harder to do from behind the screen because obviously we've just got to talk basically about stuff, and there's not exactly loads of massive talking points. The way stuff gets circulated around on Twitter, the way people are, you know, obviously covering the news, etc. We just don't like to contribute basically to, if you want to call it the echo chamber of sorts. But you know, obviously, I've injured my arm. I've been out of work. I've not, you know, I've been sorting stuff out at home. I've had to walk away from it a bit. But obviously, we're back here now. I just made this little video just for a bit of an update, really. Obviously, you know, it's looking like everything's actually full. Everything we spoke about, the financial crisis, the Fed raising rates, it's all happening. The stock markets are bleeding. The US dollar itself, you know, the bonds, the yield inversion that we're actually starting to see is a bad sign for an economic crisis coming up. And I genuinely do believe in 2019, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be an epic year to sit back and just actually, you know, just absorb all the information that you've learned, economic-wise, political-wise, cryptocurrency-wise. And we're going to see a massive paradigm shift, the biggest wealth transfer in history. We will see it because as the stocks bleed, everything's interconnected. There'll be no safe havens in the traditional economic sort of you know, markets, if you want to call it. Obviously, gold and silver will do extraordinarily well. I'm pretty much sure they will do, as they've been a store of value for thousands of years. But you've got to think about this new digital revolution. We're talking Ripple working with the IMF, central banks, Federal Reserve, faster payments task force are looking at using Ripple's technology. Obviously, we don't need to go into who they are partnered with. It's fucking unbelievable. And listen, we've heard Chris Larsen himself come out. You know, everybody's preaching globalization. If you want to think that's a good thing or a bad thing, the echoes are heard across the fucking lands. And Chris Larsen himself has come out saying XRP actually could, you know, if we was to face an economic crisis and meltdown, then obviously XRP, and obviously we have spoke about this, XRP is specifically designed to provide liquidity, and we are going to see massive shortfalls of liquidity happening in the very, very near future. Obviously, when I say that, I do mean weeks and months, you know, potentially in the next 20 to 12 months, sorry. But we're going to see it. We are going to see it, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be fucking epic to watch. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of bloodshed. But, you know, I'd like to think, you know, if we're going into 2020 and Ripple really does do well, XRP really takes that bid, and the financial markets do collapse the way that we all do think that we're going to be. And it's going to be the biggest in history, bear in mind. And when we do see that wealth transfer, we're going to see it going to gold. We're going to see it going to silvers. And I can guarantee you we're going to see it going into XRP as the central banks are clearly planning on creating a new payment system that is basically going to overtake SWIFT. I think it's already in the process of overtaking SWIFT. SWIFT has done its duty from 1971 up until 2019. And I'm saying 2019 because I do think that will be the end of the corresponding banking network. As the markets bleed out and the locked up capital in the nostro accounts, you know, these financial institutions and banks could really do with the capital during a downfall like this. And there is, you know, currently anywhere between 10 to 20 trillion locked in nostro accounts worldwide. So during a financial economic crisis, when you've got a SWIFT system, SWIFT, it takes 5 days. You know all the shitness that fucking arises with SWIFT. Or you can use XRP, receive all your capital back and use your capital and XRP as a settlement system on demand as of when. And I think we'll see that happening. I really do think the nostro accounts are going to play a massive role in supporting the economy when it does start to bleed the way it does. And it's going to be an absolutely fucking unbelievable scenario to watch unfold. It'd be great if it unfolds the way that we all think it's going to be. There's a lot of great people in this community that are creating content, and their insights are valued through the community and from ourselves, and it's just great to see everybody coming together collaboratively to issue this type of educating media is probably the best way of putting it. And I never thought I would be doing this, but the amount of insights and knowledge that I did pick up, I couldn't but help share with the world what I do think's happening, and I think there's a lot of people coming together now that can see the picture as clear as it can be. So I'm going to leave the video short of that one. This is just a podcast style video that I'm going to start trying to do. Obviously, you normally do it on the roads. I'm sure you pretty much enjoyed the visuals from doing it on the roads. But unfortunately now, obviously, I'm stuck up in my house in the next 4 months with a dodgy arm. So I am going to be issuing sort of like a podcast series like this. I hope that you enjoyed it. But we are going to start moving towards doing live Q&As. We're also going to be interacting with other YouTubers, content creators in the XRP community. and we're going to bring them onto the show. We're going to start having like a show where we bring somebody on, we speak to them, ask questions, and I think that'll be really good for the community as well. I'm not too sure whether we'll be doing it live. Like I say, we just need to get that computer system sorted out, and we're nearly done. But I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody who has donated in the GoFundMe to make this studio a possibility. And we're nearly there now. We've got everything: the green screens, the light, and the desk, and we're pretty much ready to go. We just need a bit more soundproofing. It'd be interesting to see what this actually sounds like. But yeah, it's just been great. I just want to tell everyone, obviously, try and step back away from this at times. Try and stay away from the price of XRP. Although we are moving up at the moment, you can't guarantee it's going to be a bull run. It'd be nice to see if Coinbase on the 21st day and the 12th day of Christmas, the actual list XRP. That will be it'd be phenomenal to see that. It's just after we've just had the clarity as well from the US sector. It will be unbelievable. But again, just want to wish everyone, obviously a happy Christmas, and that is Christmas in the next 4 days. Enjoy time with your family. Try and stay away from the crypto. Don't let it overtake your mind. I've stepped back recently for the past week or two, just to try and reflect on life. Obviously, I've fucked my arm up. I'm out of work. Work aren't paying me. And my head's been in bits with obviously the financial state that I'm going to be in. But I've sorted stuff out. The system isn't as flawed as you'd think it is. It's a good way of putting it. So I'm just getting by. I'm looking forward to actually really making and taking full advantage of this studio that's been made possible for us. So I just want to say a big thank you to everyone that's helped out, and just obviously keep a lookout for our next videos. Thank you very much.